Start the recording. Switch screens. All right, guys, welcome back to our sixth session of Adiona. Just have a couple quick announcements. The first being is, as I have been beating a dead horse about it, I will be at PAX West this coming week, and I again will be attempting to run a in real life game at one of the gaming tables there. I don't really know the whole situation at the moment. It's pretty much gonna probably be me doing first day stuff, then swinging by the tables, getting a lay of the land, and then probably either Saturday or Sunday I'll actually run a game and I'll tweet about it. And if you're interested, show up. If not, hey, Um, what was else? Oh, the other thing I was gonna say at the top of the session is that this session could very well be a 30-minute session if the players decide to go one direction, but it could also end up being a full-on 3 to 4 hour session if they do another. So I don't really have a good metric on how long this episode will last. I guess we're just going to have to find out. I do want to make sure that this is not a three-parter, so we are going to resolve the whole situation today, even if it means I have to Deus Ex Machina some things. But I think that's really all I have to say. Captain, I believe you have a supplemental log, maybe.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you get my message about the supplemental log?
No, I did not. Give me a second.
If not, I can just do the recap. It's no big deal.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, quick rundown of what happened. You guys found a neutron star that was pretty young, about 20 years or so. And, you were checking it out, you were doing the science thing, and lo and behold, you found a Federation signal on the opposite side of the neutron star's area of effect from where you were. So you checked it out, found out that the shuttle was or the object was actually a Federation shuttle. More to the point, it was your own Type 9 from somewhere in the future. So you sort of parked the thing right outside and you did a spacewalk over to check things out, and you found that. Where is it? You found a holographic armband, or an armband that supports an hologram, same one that Galen has going on. You took that back to the Adiona. You also did a little bit of digging into the computer system and found that there is or was a series of QSD modifications, and you're not really sure what most of them do, but you do have them on hand. As far as the holographic armband was concerned, you activated it and did a little bit of work, and it was the emergency science officer, Lieutenant Connery, and Connery basically informed you all that the future Adiona from the year 2384 was sending him back in time in order to prevent the Fryla destruction at the hands of the Toth, as well as to try and prevent a Toth invasion of the Alpha Quadrant via Pandora's Gate. And we had just finished the senior staff meeting, and everyone had filtered out except for the captain. But when it was just the captain alone in the conference room, lo and behold, there was a flash of light and a mysterious creature, which the captain would have been briefed on. This is Lady Q, or the Q that is in charge of the Andromeda Galaxy. And that's where we'll start things off. Captain, as I said, Lady Q has just appeared, and she has offered to offer you some guidance or some insight if you were so willing.
Okay, Q. What's in it for you?
What's in it for me? Well, I get entertainment either way.
Really, just entertainment? Nothing else in the continuum is of interest in this whole scenario? No unraveling of the space-time continuum and taking everything with it?
Trust me, if it was something that serious, I would have intervened much sooner than this.
And no argument from our other Q? I mean, you are still messing with humans. He's kind of our what's the term? Favorite plaything, I guess?
Well, that Q knows full and well that Andromeda is my playground. I'm sure if he really wanted to, he could show up, but I think he knows the last time he tried, I kicked his ass 6 ways to Sunday, I believe is the human expression.
Violence among the Q? You remember what happened the last time that happened.
Oh, you must understand. I'm talking eons ago. This was before the whole Civil War thing.
All right. Well, let me at least ask this. What can you tell me?
Well, it depends on the type of questions you ask.
Well, how about I give a rundown to see if I hit on anything that actually holds true?
She just
So,
sort of
I'm
motions for you
assuming,
to continue.
yeah, I'm assuming we're already in the middle of a paradox.
Maybe.
We've given ourselves information from possibly outside of it, or it's just an echo from an earlier attempt. And our own temporal prime directive is at risk, depending on what actions we decide to take. Is that correct so far?
So far, your limited comprehension of the situation, yes, that is correct.
And are you here to test us in any way or intercede should we take a certain course of action that might threaten something?
I mean, if you blow yourselves up, I'm not going to stop you from blowing up, but let's just say that this is one of those moments where I get to see your true character.
I'm not as pretentious to think you actually care about whether we live or die, Q.
She just sort of shrugs but doesn't answer.
I sort of spin sideways in the chair for a bit. Well, we definitely don't want the Phyla to pass away due to a issue with a simple time vortex that we're trapped in. What to do? What to do? I'm wondering, is there sort of grand plan with this 80 with the Addy?
Run that by me again?
The Adiona, this ship. Obviously, it's the first of its kind. It's the first time we've really tried to explore out here. I'm just really postulating, but if you're amused, it's got to be involved with this ship and not just the paradox we find ourselves in.
Well, I mean, ever since the Lysithia left, I've been rather bored.
And I'm pretty sure I can't do anything of an insight check on a Q. They're just going to come off as neutral.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, if you really want to try a difficulty 5 check right off the back, be my guest. But yeah, she's hard to read.
Yeah. Are there any other parameters to your visit?
Well, if you need a science officer and you sort of blink, and after a moment, there's a holographic armband where it would normally be on, say, Galen or Conry, I could certainly play that role for you for a little bit.
Provided what?
Let's just say you'll owe me something.
Me owe you. What could I possibly offer somebody as omnipotent as a Q?
She just sort of smiles knowingly but doesn't say anything.
What, human self-esteem, human consciousness? What else would we have that you don't?
Maybe you'll find out along the way.
Out of character. Yeah, this is really a quandary.
I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think it was entertaining.
Oh no, Q's always a riot. In every show I've seen a Q, including the ones on Geek and Sundry. I'm gonna let my XO in on this as well.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
And Q snaps her fingers, and Morgan, I don't know whatever the hell you were doing at this point, but you find yourself in the conference room in your chair.
Commander, we got a situation.
So I turn to the captain. And I look across the conference room at Q, and I see that, Captain. All right, then.
Yeah. Q's involved. Uh, this lovely person over here, so you can imagine what kind of decision we have waiting over our heads now.
Well, with the give me a brief rundown, Q. What do you want?
Well, let's not go into all that. I'll brief him, but the main thing is whether or not we how we come out of this is of interest to the Q, which should be a modifier as to which action we take.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of things that could catch the interest of somebody that's supposedly omnipotent. But my advice, Captain, is that regardless of whatever action you take, I'd refrain from making deals of any kind.
And I would say when you make that comment, Q just absentmindedly summons a deck and just begins shuffling it. Doesn't actually like touch the cards. She just sort of has the cards hover between her hands and just sort of shuffles itself.
Well, while you're here, Q, I might as well get to know our resident omnipotent.
What is it you'd like to know?
Well, we've seen reports of a Q who's more of a judge, a Q who's ready to go in a dramatic saying, a young Q, or there's some other Qs that we've seen but haven't really received any reports on. But if I may, how would you characterize yourself? Playful, energetic, narcissistic?
Well, I think no matter what I say, you're going to believe I'm a narcissist either way. Let's just say that I'm a Q that enjoys her games. I enjoy random games of chance, even though that the universe is not properly random. And it's almost as if to punctuate these words, the deck actually kind of morphs in on itself, and you see quite literally a crystalline D20 just sort of spinning slowly in the air above her outstretched palm.
So I'm sure that you may believe yourself that you think you have a purpose here at this moment. But at the same time, Waddy Potter tricks don't interest me. What interests me is ourselves, our mission, our current situation right now, and our crew. Is there anything that you could tell me that might necessarily indicate what the type of danger we may be going into?
Oh, I think you've already covered that already. You know, annihilation, that is how most paradoxes resolve themselves. The actor or the actor from the future ends up self terminating in some way, shape, or form. But who knows? Depending on how you handle this, could very well continue the paradox. I don't know. I try not to look too hard into these things. Ruins the fun. Of course, you also haven't asked me many questions. You've sort of danced around anything specific. You've asked vague hows and whys, but nothing specific.
There's a reason for that. I'm trying not to get involved in your little games, Q.
He just sort of shrugs.
I intend to get my people out of this situation, but I don't intend on sacrificing them in any way, shape, or form towards that goal.
Well, then I would think your course of action is clear. Either fly away from here and let the paradox resolve itself that way, or hell, I don't know, do your Federation thing and try to talk your way out of the situation. I'll leave you some
Let's
time to think, though. And she snaps her fingers and she's gone.
Oh boy.
Captain, I'm afraid to say it, but just roll with me for a moment. Not necessarily. Just roll with me. Not necessarily that we're gonna agree to anything.
Morgan,
But
go ahead and speak freely, man.
what if we just asked her what game she wanted to play? Why don't we at the very least try to learn the rules?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to inch my way towards, but I don't want to stick my foot all the way in before I know what the rules are. But I'm guessing she's not going to give anything until we actually do that. Alrighty, time for another meeting. Let's get some more information before we do this.
All right, full senior staff.
Yeah, and I'll call them into. I don't think we have any absent quarters. Actually, where would the majority of the crew be at the moment as far as the senior staff?
Well, I would think Havoc is probably halfway to engineering, if not there already. Mayweather and Zava, unless they wanted to be somewhere else, along with Merrick, would be on the bridge, and Galen is quote unquote in sick bay, but can be pretty much anywhere he wants at a moment's notice.
Let's get this done on the bridge.
Okay. In that case, we'll cut to the bridge. Pew. And you guys can start as I move some tokens around here.
Yeah, pretty much having a conversation near the rear.
Okay, there's Galen. There's Havoc. And
Andromeda is included in this as well.
okay. What about Iha? Is Iha in on this?
Yes, because she's on the ship.
Okay.
Absolutely. I would consider that essential.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Am I missing? I feel like I'm missing. No, that's everyone. Okay. All right. Yeah. Go right ahead.
Just a reminder, though, we didn't tell Iha the whole story.
Yeah, everybody is getting briefed with the situation, especially when Q shows up. That just puts so many power. It's exponential now, so we got to make sure. I want everybody thinking about what we need to do in order to get out of this, especially if Q's involved. Alrighty, so I'll add once the whole crew is assembled. It's like, alrighty, crew, we have a problem. Of course, we're in what I suspect is the middle of a time paradox, but we've received a modifier to our whole situation that is going to make this even more monumental when we finally decide on the task. The continuum is now involved in our situation. I'll gesture to Andromeda and Iha. Like, have your people ever encountered the Q?
Iha just sort of thinks about it and says, "We've always heard stories from other species and races that pass through, but as far as actually meeting one, I don't really know of any instances." And Andromeda quickly replies, "I am aware that Q visited me when I was first picked up by the Arcadia, but subsequent visits weren't really something I kept track of."
Andromeda, do you remember the mannerisms of that Q? Could you recognize them if you met them again?
Oh, well, of course, it was the same Q that I believe Starfleet is most familiar with.
Okay. Well, that means we're dealing with a different player. There is a Q that's supposedly assigned to the Andromeda Galaxy, and she is interested in how this game turns out. Which leads to tell me this whole situation may be possibly involve outside influence, not necessarily from the Q, but of somebody else playing around. Yeah. Barring the suggestions that you've already received, if the Q are involved, do any of your suggestions change?
I imagine that's an open question to everyone present.
Yeah, that's a question to everybody.
I would like to talk to the science officer again, perhaps one more time, see if we can glean anything else.
I agree with Merrick. I think that's still, at this point, our best course of action is to still glean the additional bit of information that we can before we need to make a decision. At this point, we just need whatever we can before we can decide to move forward, depending on whatever game the Q is trying to make us play.
All right. And is the ESO still viable?
Out of character, since it's been a couple weeks, I'll remind you. It is currently in a state where it was set to self-terminate, or at least wipe its own memory after about 2 hours. My notes show that you guys sort of put it in quote-unquote suspended animation, but at the same time, my notes also show that Galen was a strong objector to you all messing further with the ESO, both because it has signs of sentience and because it may violate the temporal prime directive. At least, again, that's what my notes say, but if Galen, if you would like to modify and or contradict, feel free.
Oh, no, I'm still sticking to that.
All right.
I have a question, just a general about the game. The science officer, does it exist now on our ship?
I had that AI put into deep storage to try to freeze his chronometer so he wouldn't delete while we were trying to make a decision.
No, not the one that we have come back to us, but a basis for his program now that would evolve to what it would be in the future.
Oh,
We did.
yeah.
We used
We
it as
did.
a transplant to repair them. So I don't know if it still exists or not.
Okay, so there was a base program, as it were, that we used to stabilize the visitor now.
Mm-hmm. But I believe, unfortunately, that's been lost now that we've used it to stabilize a hologram from the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wasn't happy about that decision, but I wasn't in the room. All right. Well, we don't have a choice. Galen, we may have to reactivate the ESO to try to see if the Q were involved ahead of time.
Let's ask him about his more personal aspects of himself, as well as, what he knows about the future. I mean, I don't think he's going to give us anything, but
I'll let you handle the questioning.
Very well. I'll set up the armband and transfer the program on over. And I'll guess I'll go do that. Are we doing any special location though?
Right here on the bridge is fine.
Very well. I'll be back. I don't have the armband with me.
All right. Well, so Galen disappears for a moment to go obtain the armband, bring it up to the bridge, and I guess gives you all a moment to talk without Galen if you wanted to for whatever reason. But if not, we'll just say 5 minutes pass and he reappears.
Mirror Universe 1, hollow rights don't exist.
So yeah, 5 minutes
I
pass.
actually,
Oh, go ahead.
I actually look at the captain and state, so how do you think we're going to convince him to actually tell us if a Q was involved? Basically, ask him, how is he going to convince that hologram to give more information that he's already given?
Well, whether or not the Q is involved is irrelevant at this point since the Q is now involved.
This is true, but she could be involved because of the paradox.
Yeah, but I mean, the main thing about the temporal stuff is it doesn't necessarily have to occur first for you to be involved.
I regret sleeping in class during that day. They explained all this crap.
Yep, it's a pain in the butt.
I begin rubbing my temples, very annoyed.
but
You
we
got
have
sleep in the academy?
but we have yet to violate either the prime directive or the temporal directive at this point.
Yeah, the main thing is whether or not we use knowledge from the future. However, we have good reason to believe that we're actually in a paradox right now. So whether or not that information gets out is more dependent upon the crew keeping their traps shut instead of being exposed to it. It's about minimizing the damage and not necessarily isolating it completely.
So this is an open question to the rest of the crew, since I don't believe it's necessarily come up before, and if it did, we may have glossed over it. But are we thinking about back to what the Q mentioned to us? Are we sure that we're the only players in this game besides the Q, of course, and the
No,
tough.
I'm convinced we're not. But I know there could be, who knows how many players. I mean, the other ship could be involved. A natural phenomenon could be the board we're playing on, for crying out loud.
Well, that's not. I mean, mostly considering our science officer. Are we sure that we ourselves are the only people with the potential to modify him? And in case of an event like this, I mean, it was 4 years in the future, and at least what he described, it was something that we put together rather quickly. So now, honestly, I'm in doubt that necessarily all the information that he has the potential to give us is completely accurate.
Agreed.
I'm mainly waiting for the ESO to come back now.
Oh yeah. By now, Galen would have been able to come back with armband in hand.
And I'll reactivate him.
Okay. Apparently I've lost his token. You can assume that he's there, and he says, "Please state the nature of the scientific emergency."
Well, we're a bit of a quandary. The situation that we discussed with you earlier has just escalated. The Q are not interested in what's going on.
I see. And you wish to ask me additional questions?
Yes. Whether or not you're able to answer, I'm not sure of, but I at least want to make sure I try to maximize the chances for the crew. By chance, did your crew encounter a Q in this situation?
I cannot say, Captain. It is against my programming.
Alrighty.
So, out of character, when we dealt with our ESO before, we were additionally focused on trying to stabilize and repair his program.
Mm-hmm.
But we never necessarily looked for the source of, his instability, at least to my knowledge. So that's something that I'd like to try to attempt to do so now. Can we use our previous science officer's matrix that we did graft upon him, if we still have like the residual data of it as a base, and extrapolate where it might be in 4 years' time under average use, to see if that would have completely affected him in a different way than the way that he arrived to us before?
It's a good question. Let's resolve it by having one person, and one person can also assist. A insight plus science, I think. Yeah, let's do insight and science. And I'll say that if you don't want a person to assist you, the ship can assist with computers and science. And the difficulty here will be, let's make it a 3.
I don't mind trying to roll. Maybe it's probably best for, if it's going to be a science check, for a science officer to do that, but I don't mind assisting him instead of the ship.
Okay, I'll do it. And Morgan, you can assist me?
Sure.
Do I have a focus, GM?
Well, what focuses do you think would apply here?
I'm looking.
Well, for reference sake, the ship will roll a 14 with focus if we use the ship.
Closest thing I have is probably ship computer.
Yeah, I don't think, unless you're suddenly a holographic expert, I don't think you're going to have a focus.
Nope, I don't think so either.
If the ship's rolling a 14, maybe the ship should roll instead. I completely forgot.
Okay, well, I'll just say I'm not a holographic expert by any means.
I'll handle the roll for the ship then.
All right. Remember, you can spend threat to give me, to give yourselves extra die.
Am I still rolling then, or is the ship?
Yeah, you're still rolling. The ship is assisting whoever is rolling.
Okay, sorry.
think I used my
Your
determination. Yeah, the last in the last session. So
I would say this is a new session, so it's back, but you don't pile up determination. You only get the one once you
yeah,
challenge values.
yeah. What's your or let's see. Oh, they're in line. Just 2 successes.
Yep. So the ship just needs one success, and any more than that goes to momentum.
God damn it.
All right. Well, in that case, one quick check. Merrick, do you have? I believe it's I know my ship, or there's another talent that if you use computers, you get a reroll. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, though.
I have technical expertise, but not computer expertise.
Well, doesn't technical, as long as it's using the computers?
Yeah, that's true. So Adiona can reroll.
All right. See a success, Adiona.
Computer science. Cross whatever you got.
Hey, one success. That's all you need. So, yeah. Merrick, you sort of use the computer to extrapolate where your ESO would have normally been after some extended period of time. And the result is that it's partially what you're expecting. Like, Conry is where he should be for 3 years of continual use.
But he was trapped on the shuttle for a while, correct?
That's where I was going to go next. Yes, so the degradation that you're seeing, or you did see anyway since it's now been fixed, is more than likely a result of him being trapped in quote-unquote slow time, as you sort of guessed in the Discord earlier. So basically, it's unknown how long he actually spent around this neutron star, sort of drifting in the Type 9 shuttle, and that it was probably quite a while in order to degrade his matrix that far.
I just wanted to be certain the source of the degradation.
Yeah, I would say that you're 99.9% sure that time is literally the cause for this problem, as are a lot of your problems, but this one in particular, definitely time.
All right, then. I just want to make sure there's no other players involved that are just trying to give us false information. So obviously, that's all.
Now, I would say by now, if there was a additional player involved, either you would have found it, or rather Havoc would have found it when she was restoring the Matrix, or you would have picked up on it, or one of you would have picked up on it while Conry was sort of briefing you all.
For my additional question, reviewing the data that I have we fully repaired him? Is he still degraded in some areas, perhaps, or?
I would say he seems to be fully repaired. However, you are seeing the ticking time clock where you've got about an hour and 45 minutes before his memory will be wiped. And I would note, or you would note, I should say, you will note that the command level code needed to override that is command level 10, which means captain only.
Okay, I pass that on to the captain, of course.
You just see an extra ridge on my head just show up all of a sudden.
Lieutenant Connery, when is the last time, or can you tell us about when you met each of us?
I assume you mean back on the future Adiona.
Yes, when you became a more active program.
I was activated approximately... what is today's star date?
Provide it.
Okay. I was activated approximately 2 months from now.
Was it due to an emergency situation?
My understanding was there was a ship-wide medical emergency, and that a science officer was required.
and you assisted the crew at that time, and that's when you met each one of us?
That is correct, yes.
Captain
Who-
makes a mental note to have a class 5 diagnostic run on that front console sometime in the future.
Who's the earliest person in your memory, Connery?
He would point to Merrick, I believe. Yes, he would point to Merrick.
I just don't have enough information for this.
Well, side note, I'm trying to get each of you to ask him some questions, personal questions.
Does Galen necessarily have anything to offer at this moment? Since I'm sure you want to champion hollow rights at this point.
I'm simply observing and making sure prime directives are being followed.
Okay, I got an idea that I'm going to try.
All right.
Lieutenant Connery, could you step over to the council here? This neutron star that we found you about, it's quite unique. How would you evaluate it?
Steps over, kind of looks at your console, and says, "Seems to be approximately a 20-year-old star. Seems to be producing small amounts of neutronium, and other than that, it's just a neutron star based on what I'm seeing here."
But you had not encountered it in your past.
No, I was not specifically assigned to this task, no.
Excuse me, did you just say 20 as in 202 decades old, years old?
Out of character, I might have misspoke, but Connery was activated 2 months, not 20 years.
No, he just said the star was a 20-year-old neutron star. I was
Oh,
asking to confirm if he said 20,
Yeah.
a star.
That's correct. It is young.
yeah, it is a very young neutron star.
Is there any possibility, who just created it as part of her game?
Connery doesn't really have an answer for that, but someone else on the bridge might.
Well, it was a star that was created on the borderline of becoming a black hole, but it is actually still a star.
How much more mass would it take for this star to actually collapse into a black hole?
Can we determine that?
Well, I guess my question is, Captain, are you asking just generally to the bridge, or are you asking someone in particular?
I'm just asking out loud. I was assuming the science officers would probably jump on it, but yeah, I'm sort of just. I mean, this is basically a group discussion at this point, so.
Yeah, just making sure. Because in that case, Connery's just going to again look at the data and say, approximately another solar mass, and it would become a black star. Or a black hole, I should say.
One solar mass.
That means one sun, right? Not one Earth.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the area that has that much mass? Nebula, rocks, anything?
I would say, Merrick, why don't you just do me a reason science, difficulty 0, because you guys could use momentum at this point. Reason science, and the ship will do sensor science. And again, we're just trying to get you guys some momentum here.
I have an idea. One of those Doomsday devices made out of neutronium. Quite dense.
It is.
Yeah, but does it match the amount of mass we're looking for?
Can I take a focus? Theoretical physics?
Yeah, sure. I would say this whole situation is very theoretical. All right, so there's one success. All right, you guys have 2 momentum, whoever's keeping track of that. And yeah, Merrick, you're scanning the immediate area and not really seeing anything. You're kind of in a space between the stars, as it were. I mean, space in general is very empty. So it's not really surprising that you're not detecting a whole lot, but I would say the nearest system with a star is probably about 3 or 4 light years distant.
You said it went supernova,
Mm-hmm.
then collapsed to a neutron star. So there was something here before that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it would have been blown away by the CME. And there's no rogue planets, no rocks, no nothing, just empty space, huh?
Yeah, at least that's what you're saying.
Well, does IHA possibly have any other information that she could give us? At least when it comes to like prior star charts in this area. If this neutron star is only 20 years old, then I'm not necessarily certain whether the Lysithia would have information in their astronavigational records about this specific region, but possibly the Frilla do.
Well, when you ask Iha, she says there was a 3 planetoid system here, and of course, as the captain has surmised, the CME and the resulting shockwave sort of wiped everything out in the immediate area. We were just lucky that it wasn't a powerful enough shockwave to really damage any neighboring systems, at least in a cosmic sense.
Am I able to determine if the supernova was natural or should have occurred?
That, I would say, is something you would have to devote quite a bit of time to. It's not something you'd be able to do in a single roll.
Is there something about the Andromeda galaxy radiation-wise, the effects that we've been spotting that might have influenced that?
Again, that would be something you'd have to spend a significant amount of time working at. It's not a single roll type thing. And the reason I bring this up is because, to sort of interject, Zava reports, well, everyone, just want to let you know the Toth ship is approximately 2 hours and 30 minutes out, if what Connery here has said. We've got about 2 hours and 30 minutes to act if we want to stop this thing before it enters the gravity well.
Yeah, we don't know what was done previously. So we don't know if fighting and running or fighting and destroying this thing will even modify what's going on. In fact, I think that will just make sure that somebody else comes over here. Feel like my damn hands are tied.
Do I think I could glean any information by getting closer to the star?
I would say at this point, getting closer to the star, I mean, you guys are probably on the edge, if not very little in. Unlike most stars where the kind of area of effect where your metaphasic shields will protect you, the problem with a neutron star is that its electromagnetic radiation, at least from what I remember reading up on neutron stars, the radiation it's putting off is so many magnitudes above a normal star that you actually will die from the radiation before the gravity will ever really sort of trap you.
Okay, so you already jumped where I was going. Metaphasic shielding, we're already pushing it as it is.
Yeah, you're pretty much taxing the limits of your metaphasic shielding.
Okay, so Captain XO, I don't believe we can get any closer to the star at this point without significant modifications and studies to how to protect ourselves. And it'll take a great deal of time to research the history of the star as far as its supernova, if it was basically natural or if somebody had caused it, like Q, but there's insufficient time at the moment. What if here's another strange idea, GM. Can we somehow use the gravitational effects to give us more time?
I mean, there's always ways to screw with time, but I believe Morgan had something.
I was just going to say, at this point, considering that everything that we've experienced so far. Honestly, my viewpoint has shifted from attempting to preserve the temporal prime directive to just acting in our current best interests. And I'm just thinking that out loud.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at too. We're already involved. Whether or not we come out or evaporate into nothingness is all based on what we do from here.
Well, at this point, honestly, it may be in the best interest to potentially contact the Toth. At what point, I mean, knowing what we know now, and at least in this current timeline, if we were just going to think ahead 2 hours into the future for when they show up, what would they probably do here? And I don't necessarily mean like in the sector of space. If they fall into this neutron star, and whether or not we render them assistance or not, like what do we think is like a probable outcome of that with the information that we have now? If we were able to actually render them assistance and to prevent them from falling in, what immediate difference would that make in this timeline and this timeline alone?
Yeah, it's whether or not we can get them to actually get to a neutral position with us.
At this point, I think it's just a game of keep away, but we gotta try to do it in a sense that doesn't necessarily seem aggressive or violent or confrontational.
May I suggest something completely and utterly crazy?
Yeah, I'm up for ideas.
We contact the other ship directly and propose an exchange.
Of what?
Simply put, a negotiation, but we exchange one person from each crew with each other to ensure that we do not come to hostilities immediately.
Yeah, well, there's only one person they'd be willing to do that with, I think, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that.
I actually think we could convince him to let me aboard.
Do you have anything else to that idea of yours?
Simply put, the Toth want more information, correct? We could go them with, well, I raise my arm up and clench it a few times. Unknown and technology that far surpasses their normal. I don't like the idea.
Anything, but I would never order you to do this. This would have to be completely voluntary if we did take such action.
I don't like the idea, but if it prevents an entire, well, civilization from dying, and it prevents the ship from getting turned into space dust, I'd be willing to subject myself to this indignant action.
I am not necessarily as a commanding officer. I'm totally not going to be able to sanction that in any capacity, whether it's voluntary or not. I need as much as I can of you as you are now. But I will keep that idea on the record, possibly as a last resort.
Yeah, that's
Commander Morgan, do you have any other ideas of making it so the Toth stop approaching this star and return to their space?
Everyone seems to be dancing around and coming up with elaborate ideas, but we all seem to be ignoring the obvious and the most simplest. Why not communicate with them?
That's what I was proposing, but
It's a simple hello. We are doing a scientific exploration of the star. What brings you here?
Well, that's what. If any situation with the Toth, that's how I'm going to begin. But just in case things go south, we need other options. This, as you can see, we're not really a fighting ship.
One quick thing. Mayweather, you can indeed roll that. Go ahead and do it at difficulty 2. And you will have a focus. Oh, there it is.
My pilot's talking to folks.
All right. So Mayweather, you would know, based on your briefing that you would have received from IHOB before, and maybe a little bit extra studying. You know that the Toth are a very proud species. They aren't extremely xenophobic, but they are xenophobic to the point where they don't really like being, how do I want to say this? They sort of view getting assistance from other species to be beneath them, almost as if it's sort of a demeaning act. However, I will say, as sort of a comparison, they're sort of like Klingons in that, you know, the average Toth is not as, set in stone. Some Klingons are honorable, some are absolute trash and will stab you in the back, no questions asked. But on the whole, I would say that without knowing how this particular Toth crew operates, you're probably guessing that they would be, I would say, not inclined to receive assistance unless they were in major danger of destruction.
Yeah, that's my whole thinking. Unless they're in trouble, they're not really going to want to talk to us. How much neutronium in terms of solar mass did we collect? Like, how much of it do we actually have?
I would say, did I write it down somewhere? I think I said you have a meter by meter panel. Yeah, let's just go ahead and say it's a meter by meter. But in terms of
that is not a solar mass. Yeah.
No, not even close.
All right, so shooting that into the neutron star as a trigger doesn't help.
Nope.
And we're running out of time.
To me, it comes down to basically a choice. Do we stick to the temporal and prime directives? Because essentially we can't understand any decision that we make, how it'll affect the future. We're going to always be dealing with probability. So it's a matter of how do we conduct ourselves. So I, for one, would like to, stay and uphold the prime directive and the temporal directive.
Well, the only thing we know so far from the future is that there is trouble if we take a certain action, but we have no idea which one it is. So I think
that's
we're still
one
safe as far as that goes.
That's one possibility. If you go into the theory of multiverse.
True, but we're gonna die. We know that's coming, and we have no way of knowing what actions are gonna lead us to that.
And then, if that happens, then we'll do so as Starfleet officers.
Alrighty. Let's go talk to the Thoth.
All right. So, I'm going to put us on this map just so you have a visual. We're not actually in Starship combat. It's just the easiest way for me to show you where you guys are.
Can I make one comment, though, before we do this?
Sure.
Could we intercept them away from the star? That way there's still a little distance and a little reaction time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can. I'm just going to vaguely show you where you guys are. So as you can see, you've got the neutron star in the middle of this map. Let me change the aura color so it's a little bit more visible here. Make it a green. Yeah, so the sort of yellowish area that you're seeing is the area of effect. The closer you get to the neutron star itself, the more damage or possible damage you will take to your structure, as you are literally being bombarded by radiation and gravitational forces. But in general, you're on the left side, quote unquote, of the star, outside of its range at the moment. And the, what did I call this thing? I believe it's the Kurgan? Or no, it's the Cutson. The Cutson is on the other side of the star, and probably why they haven't noticed you yet. They are, I would say, about 1 to 2 light years out at the moment. So this isn't, again, to scale, but in general, this is what you're looking at.
I would like to take the time to try to enhance my sensors so that I can cut through the radiation better than they might if we do get into combat. In other words, I'm already here. I know the environment. Study it before they get a chance.
I would say that would take up a majority of your time, but that is something that can happen.
I'll ask the captain if he wants me to do that.
I'll have him work on that in the meantime while we're trying to maneuver. I'm going to have the ship close on the cutscene, but I need to know the fastest path while minimizing the effects to the ship from the radiation.
Well,
One, is that ship at sublight? And if so, two, how long until they reach the end? That will modify the course we take.
Is the micro QSD jump a possibility?
it is, but I will remind you, Zava told you that they are 2.5 hours out, probably more like 2:20 at this point. 2 hours and 20 minutes out from being in system. So you've got time to move around the neutron star.
Okay, so we can safely maneuver around the trouble area and be in front of them.
Yeah, I would say it maybe takes you all of 45 minutes if you're not pushing the impulse engines.
And I'm just trying to generate an advantage.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have Mayweather maneuver us around to intercept them before they get to the sphere of influence of the neutron star.
All right. So, I'm just going to move a few things. So, say 45 minutes will pass, and we'll get to that in a moment, but eventually you guys will be here, and you would be between the star and the cutscene. But during that 45-minute time, is anyone doing anything of note that I should be made aware of?
If he's not needed on the bridge, I'll go back down to sickbay with the ESO.
All right. Are you going to deactivate the ESO or no?
Are we done trying to talk with them?
Actually, yeah, and I would release him from any storage. I'd leave him up to your recognizance as far as how you want to deal with him, because he's about to self-delete by the time we get over here anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take him to whatever we have as a lounge area and just chat. Just about nonsensical things. Different programmers and designers for holograms back at the Daystrom Institute.
Okay.
The funny biological forms on this ship.
Those freaking meat bags.
All right.
At least that's how I'd handle it anyway.
I'm basically heading to my quarters and attempting to basically, if I do get sent over to the enemy ship as basically a peace offering, like temporary, just send me over to make sure that they don't shoot immediately, because we'll have one of their men as well. I'm just making sure that my left arm has something in it that I can just activate to completely destroy it, so that way I could sacrifice the robotic arm, because we have replacements in the ship. So that way, basically, if I need to get off there, if I need to get out of custody real quick, I can actually just detonate my own arm, much like Salamander or something like that.
Okay. A little bit odd, but sure.
That's a wicked handshake.
Yeah.
Look, you don't chase after a guy after they throw their arm at you and it explodes in your face.
Diplomacy.
Yeah, I believe that is a certain weapon from D&D.
Yeah, it really is.
Also, it's also to make sure that way, if they do take my arm, I can make sure that they don't get any technological understanding from it.
All right. So that's what Havoc
And-
is doing.
I am going to surrender the bridge to the EXO and go into my ready room during the trip.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to have a small conversation with Q by myself.
Okay. Let us put you in the ready room. And I guess I'm just curious, how do you go about calling Q to show up?
I'll literally talk out into the air. And it's like, Q, you said that you were interested in games. I'm assuming we're already on the game board and that you're still watching us. So, what are the rules of your little game?
Well, Captain, and it's surprising because she literally appears behind you, sort of. Well, Captain, that's a funny thing. And after the initial shock of her just showing up, she kind of walks around your desk and takes a seat. Well, Captain, I'm not going to say one way or the other if you're already on the board, but there's a very strong possibility that you're involved whether you like it or not.
Alright, so, what are the rules to your little game? Or is that also a game?
Well, let's just say knowing the rules are not exactly as set in stone as you think they might be.
Oh?
And you are dealing with a paradox. I should think it's be self-evident.
True, but we're also dealing with you.
I don't recall making any specific deals with you yet. I think I've offered one.
Yes, but. And I've read enough about the Q to make me very hesitant in doing any sort of a contract with you, so to speak.
Well, you called me here for a reason, so what is that exactly?
From what I know about the Q, as much as you like to boast about it, you guys really don't like to play games that often.
I am a little bit odd among my species, yes.
So why even bother? I mean, I know we're the new kid on the block and all, but uh, it just seems, I don't know. I won't say bullyish because it's really not, but we're really the only thing going.
She sort of shrugs and says, I could be looking in on a whole myriad of different things, but at the moment, yeah, I find you to be the most interesting.
Jeez. I can't even do an insight on her. God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, out of character. This is highly frustrating.
I mean, that is hopefully the what is supposed to be. You know, this is supposed to be a to peel back the curtain. This is supposed to be a deliberately frustrating thing, so that either you know, deal with the devil as it is, or you know, make a snap judgment call, and you know, as a captain, and just stick with it. It's one of those Trek moments where it's a test of your character as much as it is, you know, how far are you willing to go for Starfleet? How far are you willing to go for your own morals, your own moral compass? You know, things of that nature.
Yeah. All right. So. Alrighty, Q. Since you're obviously not dressed out as a referee and seem to be just a fan watching the game, I would appreciate you testing your methods as a spectator.
How do you mean, Captain?
I've decided we're going to work this way out ourselves.
Well, seems you've finally come to one conclusion. Took you long enough. I'll tell you this much. And she kind of leans in conspiratorially, and she says, the commander's name, or the captain's name of the Cutson, it's a bye-bye. You might want to remember that. And she winks and disappears, and I'll type it out into Roll20 so you know how to spell it anyway. But that is the captain's name she has just given you. And
well, it's one small breadcrumb.
Yeah, and unless you yelled to stop her or anything, she's gone.
Nah, I'm gonna let it go. I guess I'm contemplating in here for a bit.
Okay. So back on the bridge, I believe we have to hear from Merrick, Mayweather, and Morgan. So what are you guys up to? I guess Merrick, you're working on the sensors, so that's your 45 minutes.
Right.
So I guess Mayweather and or Morgan, do you guys have anything as I clean up some tokens here?
Well, if Havoc's preparing to potentially beam over to the Toth ship, then I suppose I'm just on watch. On watch. I still kind of at one point in time I wanted to make sure we could finalize those QSD calculations from the Type 6 shuttle, but it seems like other things are taking precedence at this moment, so I don't really want to pull Merrick off of his current assigned duties of.
Well, as it so happens, you do have an emergency science officer which could do this for you. But I will say you're more than likely going to have to wait until he resets. Otherwise, his programming is not going to allow him to work on what might be future tech.
Yeah, I didn't think though. That's kind of what my plan was. You probably would have said no.
All right.
My idea is just a suggestion. You can set my priority.
Your EEH also has quantum slip drive, focus, emergency repair, and computers.
You could call in your EEH.
That sounds like a phenomenal idea.
All right. So, go ahead and go through the process of telling the EEH what you want to do while I switch maps.
Well, Commander Morgan to EEH.
Monty here, sir.
I'd like you to continue working on the QSD's calculations from the Type 6 shuttlecraft that we received earlier. I still want to see if there's anything else we could glean out of that before we head into the situation.
Aye, sir.
All right. So, Monty, as it was, you are going to now be doing a extended task. And let's say the difficulty is a 4, the magnitude is a 4. I'm going to make the resistance a 2, which means this is going to be a very hard extended task. And the default, well, I guess the work track, I should tell you, the work track is going to be a 12. And let's see, the default task will make a reason science or reason engineering. And I'm going to allow the ship to assist with, we'll say, computers engineering.
Alright, and since he's been called upon as a supporting character, can I have a talent added to him?
Normally I would say yes, but I honestly think this is the very first time Monty has been come into play, unless I'm misremembering something.
He popped up a session or two ago.
Right, but he wasn't like a major actor. Yeah, the supporting character is when they're a major actor in the adventures. So I think this is the very first time that Monty is playing a active role, like a very important role kind of a thing.
Alright, so he doesn't get that then?
No, but the next time you would bring him in, he would, yes.
Alright, this is gonna fail then.
Well, I mean, you do have 2 momentum. You do have, I think you have a focus in QSD.
And threat. And threat.
Yeah, you can also give me threat. You can maybe try and get the captain to give you his determination. You know, there's many ways you can succeed here, but it is deliberately difficult because I kind of initially put this in thinking you guys weren't going to get it, but you knocked it out of the park and got it anyway. But this is, shall we say, game-breaking levels, depending on how well you roll.
Well, additionally, since I am commanding him to do it, can I use at least advisor for that front?
I would say in order to use advisor, you would have to literally be down in engineering working with him.
Okay. Well, we still have 45 minutes until we reach the Toth vessel, so I might as well. It's something I really want to get done.
Okay.
Then in that case, we'll say yes, Morgan. You are there. You can assist.
Can I use one momentum for a dice, guys?
Sure.
Yeah, by all means, man.
Yeah.
Alright, so who goes first here then? Is Morgan assist me first, and then I get the reroll ability?
It is everybody will roll, and then if we need to re-roll, it will be you that has to do the re-roll. Can't use it on the ship. Can't use it on Morgan's roll.
Alright, so I'm gonna roll 3 dice for Monty with a focus.
Okay.
And insight engineering, you said?
Yep. Well, either insight or reason. I'll let either be a play here.
I will take reason engineering.
So since I'm using advisor, this would, I suppose, that falls under command discipline for me. So
Yeah,
what
it's
attribute
definitely
should
going
I
to
use?
be presence command for you on this one.
Gotcha.
Is the ship assisting at all?
Yes, the ship is assisting with computers engineering.
And I do have astronavigation, so will that count as a focus for QSD?
I would say in this instance, sure, I'll let it happen.
I'm sorry, was that computers and engineering?
That is correct, yes.
That's one success in it.
Okay, and the ship's rolling too?
Yeah, I think Mayweather's got it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you got the 4 successes you need. But remember, since this is an extended task, you now are going to be rolling some challenge dice. So this is going to be 6 challenge dice on Monty's part. And before you spend any dice, I need to tell you certain things, or at least remind you of them. Let's see. Where is my lovely chart? There it is. Page 91, if you want to look at the chart yourself in core. But basically, you have many ways you can spend momentum. One of them is you can increase work done by +1 before reductions for resistance at 1 cost. You can ignore up to 2 resistance for this task by spending 1 momentum as well. And if you want to roll your challenge dice and you don't like the result, you spend 1 momentum to re-roll any number of challenge dice that you so wish.
Okay. With the one there that the commander rolled, that allows me to re-roll a 0, right?
That is correct. You can re-roll that 0 to see if it gets you momentum.
Yeah, I'll try that. Just because an extra momentum is helpful. Hey, extra
All right,
momentum.
So yeah, there's an extra momentum. You're up to 2.
And how many challenge dice am I rolling?
You're rolling 6.
6. And do I have to declare the momentum usage now? For...
You have to declare it for additional work and or piercing.
what do you think we need, guys? Piercing or additional work?
Well, piercing will make it easier for your next roll.
True.
Yeah. Well, he got 5, right? Is that a breakthrough?
No, it's not a number of successes on the task. It's the challenge dice that deal with breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Then probably a piercing, then, right?
I'm kind of
That would lower the
partial to.
resistance.
Yeah, I'm kind of partial to piercing as well.
Alright, then let's use a momentum for piercing.
Okay, so you spend a momentum for piercing. Go ahead and roll your challenge dice. Let's see what you get. All right. Well, you get a whopping total of 8. Would you want to re-roll any of that? I don't think so, but you never know.
No, it's good.
All right. So so that you can keep track of it at home, it did have 2 resistance, but because you spent a momentum on piercing, that resistance goes bye-bye. So you do 8 work, and you do achieve a breakthrough. Oh, nope. One thing I do have to ask that is very important. So each bit of work you're going to do on this would normally take 30 minutes. So this entire process represents about 30 minutes worth of work. However, if you spend your other remaining momentum you can half that time so that it is only 15 minutes worth of work.
Definitely.
I would like to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so we're at 0 momentum then.
Yep, you are completely bottom out from momentum. But you have done 8 work and achieved a breakthrough, so the overall difficulty does go down to a 3. And narratively, to describe what's going on. So between Monty, Morgan, and the computers, you guys are indeed seeing that the QSD modifications are of 2 types. The first is that these QSD's calculations appear to be just different enough from your current set that if you follow this line of thinking, you might think that you could use QSD for a much longer period of time before risking sort of annihilation. There's not really an upper limit yet that you're able to tell, but again, this is just a theory. You're looking at maybe an increase of about 3 to 500% increase in the amount of time we're talking. So very significant. The other part of the calculations that you're figuring out is that they appear to be using the neutron star in a slingshot type effect to use QSD to whip a craft around the neutron star in such a way that it allows for time travel. But you can't apply those yet. That's kind of what the remainder of the task is going to be. Whether or not you find something that's you can use now, kind of a thing.
Interesting.
Oh, that's definitely helpful, at least in some capacity.
I'm just worried about their inertial dampers at that speed. That's probably why they sent a hologram. If it was a person there, the cockpit would be painted red. Interesting. Shall we continue, Commander?
So if anybody goes on a trip, guess who?
Yep. Probably has to be a hologram. All right. Well, you can, of course, continue working on this. We just do a repeat of everything we just did. And we can continue working on this extended task, or we can switch away to someone else. Entirely up to you guys.
If nobody else wants any other scenes, I'd like to try to work on this until the last moment.
Okay.
GM just had a character. If
Yes.
anybody was, I'm guessing my scene with Cube probably took like what 15 minutes maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe less.
something like that.
Yeah, so I'm available if anything else. If he was gonna, if my conversation finished while he's down there, I'd take the bridge back just for continuity reference.
Okay, noted. All right. Well, I'm not hearing any objections, so why don't we just go ahead and repeat everything and see if you guys can get the remaining breakthroughs you need.
Alright, and Morgan's helping with the reroll again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gone from a 4 to a 3 now.
That is correct.
Alright, we don't have momentum to spend for an extra dice, but that should be okay.
Well, just
can always
remember
use
that
threat.
you also have to give me 1 threat if you want to do 15-minute increments.
Well, if we do this at a normal 30, we did the first one in 15, this one's a 30, that'll be 45 minutes, so that lines up.
It does.
Oh. Yeah, let's go from here then.
I suppose so.
Alright,
You
rolling.
can get him another threat and get another die.
Yeah, but every threat he gets makes harder for the enemies. Well, it makes it harder for us because of the enemies. Potentially.
It's just GM momentum. Who cares?
Just
Captain spoken. It's who cares? Jim, I'm giving you a threat.
All right.
just to be clear, we'd let the captain know where Morgan has gone, and
So
Oh, ship. No. Why, ship?
So
Yep,
I am going to
roll
take
it.
that complication. Unless you...
Alright.
No, I'm not going to let you guys spend threat on this one. The complication on this is going to be that you're starting to hit a wall. There is some leap of logic or leap of material. Some sort of resource that would be needed for this level of speed or this level of precision needed for QSD. You do have a reroll, but you cannot reroll the ship unless you
I'll reroll my
have
zero.
a talent for it.
I don't have any talent, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Advisor only works for player characters and not the ship, I assume.
Yeah, that is correct. So
Yeah.
you do get a momentum from all this, but as I was saying, so the complication for this is going to be that the resistance for your challenge dice is going to increase significantly. So you still get to roll work. It's just that the resistance on that work is a value that is higher than it was.
I'll
Now,
take it.
Does a sporting character get momentum? Determination,
Yeah, I
sorry?
mean,
Determination?
that's as long as you are actively doing something in the game, yes. So yes, you guys would have 1 momentum at the moment.
And question about support characters having determination.
Oh no, you need a value before you have determination.
Okay. Do you want to use the momentum to reduce the pacing? Or how do we reduce the challenge rating? Yeah, I can't speak now. For the increased difficulty, how do we reduce that? Is that the piercing or something else?
No. So you've already succeeded on the task. At this point,
Yeah.
you're rolling 6 challenge dice to represent the amount of work you do. Now, the work you do is going to be reduced by the resistance on this task. And you can spend 1 momentum, and you can spend as many momentum as you like, and it's 2 resistance off every time you spend it.
But the complication was on resistance now, right?
Yes, the complication is that the resistance has gone up significantly.
Okay. So then let's use the momentum to reduce the resistance.
Okay, so you're spending the 1 momentum to reduce the resistance by 2, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the
And-
only momentum / threat you're going to spend?
That's the only momentum we have, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's the
Yeah.
only momentum you got.
So, yeah.
Let's hope it's good.
All right, well, remember, you do have the option of giving me 1 threat to reroll those 2 zeros.
You guys with me doing that?
Well, in
Yeah.
order to finish, we need what, 4 more?
You need 4 more work to get a breakthrough, but you still need a grand total of 4 breakthroughs in total. And you have 1 at the moment.
So we could probably fail it by finishing the work check without the required breakthroughs. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, finishing the work track doesn't end the task. It just means that if you generate any additional work, then you are essentially getting a breakthrough automatically.
Okay.
How much thought have we given you so far? Can you
I'm
remind
going
us?
to not tell you that answer because as a GM, I always keep my threat pool hidden.
Yeah, we can't know what his threat pool is. He starts with a certain amount that we're not aware of.
Well, here's a threat to reroll those zeros.
Okay. Alrighty. So that's another 8, I believe. Alright. So, again, you're just running into the problem where it's... How do I want to say this? You're missing something crucial. You think that you could easily replicate the shuttle being thrown back in time using these QSD calculations, but as has been already sussed out, the only individual that could make a safe transition is a hologram. So conceivably, you have a way to send a hologram with a Type 9 shuttle back in time. But in order to apply it to the greater Adiona, that would require a hell of a lot more work, and you are out of time, unfortunately. Now, of course, you can continue to work on this, but it is at this point that you guys are ready, or at least to my understanding, are about to contact the Toth vessel.
Yeah, at this point, I think we should just drop it as it is right now. I mean, the EEH could at least continue to attempt to work it in the background, but at this point, I'd probably return to the bridge.
All right. So we cut back to the bridge of the Adiona. And yeah, what is the play here, guys?
All right. So nobody else had any other actions to do?
Well, I had permission to go join the EH. Buy us time.
I got no problem with that.
Granted.
I leave the bridge.
All right. So Merrick goes off to help the EEH. And yeah,
You guys are sitting, in the grand scheme of things, you're sitting between the neutron star and the Toth vessel, so what's the play here, guys?
I let Zara know what I accomplished, if anything, with the sensor stuff in case it comes down to a fight.
Okay.
I'd like to contact Havoc just before we contact the Toth.
Okay.
So that's Morgan to
I can hear you.
Havoc. Just in case we have to fall back on your last resort plan, I'd like you to take an emergency transport beacon with you.
We can put that in my leg if necessary.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Yeah, I'll just make him think that it's just an extraneous piece of the leg. I already put a bomb in my arm, basically.
Alrighty, and I'll give the standard quick notification to the medical team just to be ready just in case things get a bit ugly.
Okay.
Alright, and as soon as we come within communications range of the Toth ship, I'll request to get a hail.
All right. So, Zava opens a channel for you and says, well, Captain, I can confirm they're receiving, but I can't exactly make them answer.
That's fine. I'll start broadcasting in the clear.
All right, go ahead, Captain.
Thoth vessel. This is the Federation starship Adiona. I'm Captain Clifton Williams. You may be wondering why we're here, but we have something of great worry that we'd like to discuss with you concerning this brand new star that's out here.
Still no response.
I'll turn to Commander Morgan real quick. It's like, what do you think we could get to make them bite? Should we just shoot a low-powered phaser and run?
Probably. It's probably something along the lines of lambasting their honor. And additionally,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I didn't want to start that way, but you know. And I'll tell Zava to keep broadcasting, and I'll call out Thoth vessel. Captain Ababi, are you going to answer me or not?
So, Zava says, well, sir, the mention of the name got them to do something. They are... appears they've gone to what is equivalent of yellow alert. They have raised shields. I'm not detecting any charge to their weapon arrays, but could very well be the case that they can't fire weapons at warp. We really just don't know.
Maintain current standing, but be ready to go to yellow if we need to.
Understood, sir.
I'm not going to be the one to start the fight if we don't have to. Helm or sensors, have they changed course at all? Are they on an intercept now?
So, as you might guess, Q reports, well, no, Captain. They're still headed where they should be.
Okay. Helm,
What? You
set an
needed a
intercept
science
course.
officer.
I want to get
I thought
in
I'd fill in.
Helm, set an intercept course. I want to get in front of that ship.
All right. So, Mayweather, I'm assuming you set an intercept course?
I do.
All right. So, you set an intercept course, and after about, I don't know, another 15, 30 minutes, you do kind of reach the sort of standoff position, and I'll put us back on this map because I figure we're going to need it here, one way or the other. So at this point, the neutron star is nowhere at play here. The Adiona is probably about here, and the Toth vessel comes to a stop right about there. And I'll zoom out for those on the stream in a moment. There we go. So that's about what you're looking at here. The Toth vessel, again, has come to a full stop and is sort of just sitting there in space, not really talking to you, but
Zava reports they are still receiving, Captain.
So, I'd like to get on subspace comms and just say, Toth Vessel, Commander Bobby, there's nothing to fear from just words.
So that seems to have gotten at least some sort of response. They begin transmitting audio only. And the Toth individual on the other end says, "How do you know my name, Starfleet?"
I may tell you in time, but the important thing is that we have this little chat first.
They do not reply, but Zava does nod that they are still on an active channel.
God, how do I word this?
Well, real quickly, cutting when I motioned to Zava to cut the comms for a second and just put us on mute.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to ask the captain, do you want this to still be an exchange of information, or do you want them to, do we want to explain to them exactly what's going on here, and at least limited detail? At this point, since we do have their attention, we can attempt a diplomatic option and go through at least a semi-normal channel. We gotta start somewhere. Or if you want to give them at least a limited access to the info that we've gathered so far, that's up to you.
Alrighty. We'll start with your idea. Let's transmit at least a partial amount of information to give them the clue that this neutron star that we're in front of is a bit weird, and we have reason to believe that it may end up something involving the star may end up killing off their ship. But I'm not the best wordsmith here.
Alright then, well I suppose I'll motion back to Zava and just say channel open.
Okay.
So Toth Vessel, we've been in this space for some time and we've been studying the star. It's come to our attention that not necessarily everything is right with it, and we've taken some sensor scans that may indicate problems for both of our ships. I'm willing to absolutely share the information with you, and additionally how we have information on you, Captain. But I'd like to prefer to do this face to face. Can you turn on your visuals?
There will be no visual contact, Starfleet. However, I am willing to hear what you have to say.
Alright then, well, I motion to the crew to at least transmit him limited information. Obviously nothing involving the temporal nonsense that we've been involved with.
Well, how
But
about,
at
how about
least-
we phrase it this way? What are you sending him exactly?
Let's send them the general science data on the star,
Okay.
radiation, so on and so forth, positioning, eccentricity, blah 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 blah, astronomy stuff. Any what's the level of any theoretical physics we may have discovered about this, as far as the star's interaction with space-time, and we'll start with that.
Okay, so you transmit this data over, and you're assuming the captain sort of looks at it and says, "This information, it is regarding that neutron star.
That's correct.
We are here on a purely scientific mission to decide whether or not it is worth annexing this area of space for the Toth Empire."
At this point, we're not necessarily here to talk about a border dispute. However, the primary interest for us is this neutron star and potentially the parts that we ought to play in it. Again, I still find it best if we will be able to do this face to face. That's the last time, out of character, that's the last time I'm probably just going to attempt doing that unless I irritate him.
Yeah, I would think there's an edge to his voice at this point, and he says, "As I said, there will be no face-to-face contact.
our mission here is to scan the star, and scan the star we will. Unless you are here to stop us doing that, stand aside, Starfleet.
Jeez, I'm pretty sure my character is smarter than I am, but jeez.
Yeah, it's sort of we're in one of those situations where if this was the show, Captain Picard would immediately have an amazing speech ready to go. But yeah, it's a bit more difficult when you're trying to write one on the fly yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see here. Let me look through some stuff here.
And
If my
almost
cursor
as if
would
to
stop
further
scrolling my
antagonize
notes.
you, Q, who happens to still be on the bridge, says, "Sir, why don't we just let them scan the star and be on their way?"
Well, I was just willing to. I was actually thinking out of character to just at least accompany to them while they are approaching the star, and still give them little. If we could try to buy time, if they're going to allow us to travel at least with them, or at least a bit ahead of them, because we already indicated that we have no interest in hostilities at the moment. Just trying buying time for them while they scan the star, while we give them bits and pieces more of the scientific information that we've received.
I'm going to look directly at Q and say, because in the Federation, teamwork makes the dream work.
Alrighty, XO, unless you have a reason to suggest no, I'm thinking that we'll go ahead and let them pass, and we'll show them our 6 just to show that we have no hostile intentions as they go by, and we'll basically sit as ready rescue just in case.
As good a plan as any that I have at the moment, Captain.
Alrighty.
Okay. So do you tell the captain that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'll speak up and say, Captain and Bobby, we are perfectly fine with you going and continuing your mission, but do know that we've given you pre-warning on a possible situation there. We will pull our ship away to allow you fresh passage, but you have been warned, and a good warrior knows to take all information in before taking further actions. We will leave you to your own actions now. Have a good day. And I'll terminate the comms.
All right. Just as well.
Mayweather, pull us to the side and show our 6, just as I stated, so that way they know we're not planning on attacking them.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to move some tokens around here, kind of a visual thing. Yes, for the benefit of those of us who are not versed in Navy or military lingo, COS, if you could define that for us.
I'm sorry?
The acronym COS.
I don't think that one is used in the Air Force, unless you meant showing them our 6.
Yeah, I guess I thought I heard someone use COS, and I was like, I have a vague idea of what that might be. Do you remember who said it, Galen?
No, it's just on character support sheet, and I was like, Chief of Security? I'm like, that's not right.
Well, yeah, that's Chief of Security. I was like, where is he getting Coast from? All right, yeah.
Okay.
If it's on Zava's sheet, it's because she is Chief of Security.
No, she has CTO.
She should be both Chief Tactical and Chief Security.
Okay, the Obadiah Crawford character has COS on him.
Ah, well, someone should fix that. Anyway.
Okay.
Do you mean changing the frequency on our particle lasers to a cosine frequency or something?
Yeah, clearly. Anyway.
The view screen needs more random sine waves.
Yeah. With that confusion out of the way, Mayweather assumedly pulls the Adiona to the side. The Kutsun resumes its travel to the neutron star. And again, this is not anywhere to scale, but, just sort of imagine it. So you guys are probably about there. And so the Kutsun goes right up to the edge of the area of influence. You would detect that it begins scanning. And it moves into the area of influence just on the edge. And it sits there. And it sits there.
Maintain active scanning on that ship. I want to know if they're trying to maneuver at all with their own engines.
Adjust heading, Captain.
Yes, but don't approach them. I want to make sure we're close enough to where we can respond, but not far enough as to where we can't do anything to assist them. But never point the bow of the ship at them. I do not want them thinking that we're coming in to shoot them in their ass.
Are they performing detailed scans? Just curious.
Yeah, they appear to be doing some form of scanning of the star.
Is that enough time for me to roll?
I would say no. At this point, the resistance on the task is such that you are going to have to spend, I mean, based on what you're seeing, you're going to have to spend a significant amount of time, not like something you can whip up in 30 minutes. Hell, not even a day. You're looking at weeks worth of work based on everything at this point.
Okay.
Just our character preference, is Lady Q actually wearing dual pigtails?
Yeah. She's got
Oh, good lord.
She's got the two pigtail look going on. Almost as if she's deliberately looking that way just to get a reaction from people.
Yeah.
I want to think. I'm not going to say this because she's supposed to be omniscient, but I'm going to do the Joey. How you doing?
Oh, I find that hilarious. In any event, the cutscene sits there for another 10, 15 minutes, and then, very benignly,
I have a. If I'm not going to have a breakthrough, if I'm not going to have sufficient time, I know I'll return to the bridge.
Okay. So as soon as you return to the bridge, Q's gone. You know, you just sort of blink and she's no longer there. But yeah, you know, you're sitting there, you're watching the cutscene, but after about 15 minutes, it just sort of turns, goes to about to a 90-degree angle, and leaves the neutron star's area of influence, and goes to warp without another word. And unless you chase after it, it is now gone from your sensors after probably another couple of minutes. And I'll put us back on the bridge momentarily. Just give me a moment.
Out of character, I don't think they're gonna make it to wear and disappear. All honesty, that this feels like this is the very moment where they went missing. That's just out of character, me saying that.
Well, things are quote-unquote normal on the bridge.
How about the science officer? Is he still with us?
Unless he has been put into protected memory, he has reset at this point.
Yeah, I was not intending on using his information. So.
No, I mean some kind of paradox where he suddenly disappears, or we don't recall him, or something.
No, you still recall him. The only thing, since Galen was with him, Galen would notice a slight shimmer in Connery as he resets, and Connery just immediately says, "Please state the nature of the medical or the scientific emergency." And it's sort of like having the same conversation twice. But yeah, you have a fresh ESO now. Doesn't remember anything.
How about his what's the word I'm looking for? His evolved
sentience?
Yeah, that's it.
It's kind of that situation in Voyager where they did the graft and they weren't sure if the Doctor would retain his memories, or his personality, I should say. So it's going to take time to see if Connery's personality and intellect remains. His memories are gone, though.
Okay, that's kind of the question I had.
Well, if that's the case, and everything seems normal on the bridge, I'd like to put him to work on the rest of the QSD calculations.
Okay, so we'll say the ESO and the EEH, both Connery and Monty, are working on QSD stuff. What are the rest of you doing?
If if Galen was still with him, I'd like him to at least monitor the ESO just to see, you know, it's essentially like a fresh set of eyes looking at these calculations, and I'd like to see if, you know, anything, just to monitor him to make sure there's no abnormalities during this process.
Okay, so holographic party and engineering.
Before I head down to head engineering, though, is he still using the armband, or is he just using the ship's hallway emitters now?
I would say at this point he has switched over to the ship's emitters.
Alright, I'll take that armband, go back to sick bay, go to the storage compartment where the armbands are kept. I'm going to take the third one, that's current timeline, and etch in the G.
Okay.
I'm going to put it back in, and put the spare one now under in a drawer on my desk.
Okay. Noted.
All right. One thing I'm going to have is I did ask for constant scans on that ship when it went in. As a tertiary project, I'd like to try to have the science team go over it with a fine-tooth comb for anything unusual.
I only got about half of that because you were extremely
Oh, my bad, my
quiet.
bad. I accidentally got comfortable. My apologies. I want to have a section of the science team go over the sensor data from that Toth ship and tell me anything unusual that is not normal. I may include IHA in that as oversight so she can help eliminate what is normal.
Okay. Normally I do a roll here, but I think I have a good way of handling this. So, Merrick, Iha, and maybe a couple other science nerds get together and do some work. And Iha is probably the first to report. Sir, I'm not detecting any abnormalities with the ship, the Cutson. Seems that they did some sort of modification to their engines before they entered the neutron star's area of effect. And afterwards, they've pretty much jumped to a standard warp. In fact, I've detected that they've already reported back to the Toth homeworld.
All right, so let's take a note that we did not take any action against them. What was the modification? Do we have anything in the sensors that would tell us what that was? As far as their emissions or anything.
Based on what I know, Captain, they more or less changed the frequency of their containment field.
Okay. All right, I'll leave that with the science team. It may, who knows, it may be tertiary data for now, but you never know when it'll come in handy. And well, I don't think Andromeda really would have any input on this either.
Well, I'd like to ask Havoc to work with myself and IHA about this sensor and what they've done to their ship. Why enhance their containment?
Well, I mean, if you ask that out loud, Iha will have an answer.
Okay.
And Iha says, probably just to withstand the extra stress and radiation coming from the star.
But nothing more than what we have done, right?
Something like that. Yeah, I wouldn't call it exactly metaphasic shielding on their part, but something like that.
I'm just trying to get a sense of their technology. Are they more advanced, less advanced?
I would say at the moment they are maybe about 50 years behind you, which isn't much, because technology sort of did stagnate there for a little bit in the Federation. But
It's almost like they're at the Cardassian level.
Yeah, I would say they are definitely Cardassian level. But yeah,
Alrighty.
go ahead.
I'll have Zaya as a tertiary project also go over the comms and the mannerisms that their ship took, just for future reference, to help sort of write a theater reference guide for any other captains that may come out this way.
Okay.
That'll be a long-term project for her as far as documenting our trip and writing down suggestions that we come up with.
Okay. Now, the one thing I'm going to say here, and I was going to whisper this to Morgan, but I'll just say it aloud. So, Morgan, with your focus in temporal mechanics, you would acutely recall the fact that the Cutsim was supposed to go missing in this area, and that it never reported back to the Toth homeworld, at least in what Conry told you. So, you've already affected the timeline, whatever it is.
That is something that was on the back of my mind. that this absolutely events happen differently, but I just kind of accepted it. But most definitely, I'm gonna mention that to the crew. That it seems like the timeline's been changed. According to the ESO, Cudson was never necessarily supposed to make it back, and we've seems like possibly inadvertently or not, just avoided the situation that took place. If all current information is to be believed.
My only suggestion would be to study the star for any unusual effects or why it came to, existence 20 years ago. Basically, to see if the game is still in play.
All right.
I would like to ask IHA additionally for since the Toth vessel mentioned that they were looking to annex a system for the Empire. I'd like to see if there is still any additional, I don't know, Frilla military intervention. I know she said that Frilla ships haven't passed through this system at any point recently in the past, but I'd like to see if there's just like a historical precedence which would make them linger around this system a little bit more. Perhaps there's just a military reason for it that happened in the past that they're finally going to take advantage of now.
Yeah, Ayahad, looks over what she knows in her database and says, I know about as much as you do at this point, Commander.
All right, I'm going to give the science team one more task before I'm thinking about leaving here.
Okay.
I want them to drop 2 buoys. A sensor buoy just for general scanning for, location and such, so like if ships get in the area, there'd be a friendly sensor suite that's just identifying them, And then 2, a communications buoy to establish contact back to the Federation. So that way the sensor will have a clean method of transmission. If they do end up annexing this place, chances are they'll destroy this, and then we'll at least have a time index of when they decided to do so.
Okay.
I'm not convinced that they'll want to destroy the star. I think there's something unique about it.
No, not the star, the buoys.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because they don't want the Federation snooping in their own territory. So when they take it, they'll destroy it, and then at least we'll have a time index of when they did that.
All right. Well, as I said, that's actually the end of the prepared content I have. And rather than signing off right away, I did want to kind of have a quick discussion with players just so that you're like, well, what the hell was that? So, I mean, you guys did successfully change the timeline, so good job there. Honestly, what changed the timeline was you gave the Toth detailed scans of the neutron star. And what I had written down here was that the reason the ship went missing initially was because it had a containment failure because it was not adequately calibrated or I would say really tested against a neutron star's level of interference. So you giving them that information gave them all they needed to prevent that happening in the first place. There were many other ways you could have solved this, but you found your own solution, which is kind of what I was hoping for.
Yeah, but nevertheless, right before we head out, I was going to check back in with Q.
Well, I suppose we can do that as sort of an ending scene. I'm assuming you're ready, Rome?
Yeah, and I'd have the Commander Morgan there as well.
Okay, sure. Switch us over to that. Let's see, where did I put Commander Morgan?
Oh god, where did Q put me?
That is Morgan's old token. Where's his new one? There it is. Alright, so, Morgan, you're having a chat with the captain, and Q does show up, and she says, well done, Captain. Seems you found your own way out of this scenario. I must admit, I was expecting you to kind of go in guns blazing there for a moment.
With all due respect, you do know this is basically a speedboat.
Doesn't mean you don't have planet-destroying weaponry on it.
You overestimate some of these guns.
Well, let's just say you've sated my curiosity and amusement for the time being. You might be seeing more of me in the future. You might not. Who knows? And unless you stop her, she's gone.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Was she? She's pretty much is she actually wearing the science uniform instead of the
Oh yeah,
captain's uniform
that's
like
why
most of you do?
that's why I used that art for her. She was showing up in standard blue colors.
So yeah, I would go to Commander Morgan and say, take a note. If she's taking the time to look different from all the other cubes that have ever interacted with us, we're in for some trouble. Especially if she's coming from the science side of things.
Keep that in mind, Captain.
I'll just get out of my chair more often.
I need a piece of pie.
And I think that is a good point to end it. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for playing with me and sticking through this rather interesting scenario. I just have a few quick offline remarks before we head off. But to anyone watching on the stream, thank you for watching. Hopefully you had a good time. And you will see these guys, I believe, on the 11th. Yes, on the 11th. All right, well, thank you for watching, and see you later. Bye-bye.